What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Just yesterday, Tilted Nation, a company that specializes in sort of desktop setup peripherals, sent me basically their entire product stack to take a look at. Now for those of you that have never heard of this company before or want to know more about some of their products, I'll have their website listed down in the video's description. But for right now, we're going to bring it in close, take a quick look at some of the stuff they sent over, and then next time you see me will be probably a week or so later after I've gotten the chance to test out all of these products. All right, so let's get this off the tripod, and there we go, freeform. So I guess let's start from the top and work our way down. Now they actually sent over two of these high-performance mouse pads, which are actually more closely described, in my opinion, as a desk mat, measuring about 31.5 inches wide by 11.8 inches deep. Now, as I attempt to pull a Kyle and unbox this one-handed, this is touted as having a water-resistant surface on it, so in the event you have a drink at your desk and you accidentally spill it, then this should do a pretty good job at repelling the water and not ruining the mat itself. It does have a rubberized surface on the bottom section of it, and it touts compatibility with a wide range of sensors, and that has to do with the fact that some sensors are a little bit more sensitive to some surfaces than others. What just fell out here? We got some stickers, cool. And we have additional warranty information, flip over. So if you go to vip.tiltednation.com, you can register to get an extra year of warranty service. You are privy to special discounts and offers, and you get other promos and news, and then there's a little QR code there for you to scan. I'll leave that up on the screen for a second. All right, enough of that, moving on. So let's take a look at this mat real quick. All right, so yeah, that's actually a pretty clean design. I personally really like the cut of this mat's jib, if you will. It does have a little bit of slide to it, but I guess we'll see in long-term testing how that holds up. All right, now they also sent over one of their RGB LED desk mats. This does, I believe, have the same dimensions, same dimensions as this desk mat here, only it has a plain black surface on it with some RGB lighting done around the side. So this is probably going to be the daily driver mat that I use at my desk for my long-term testing. All right, next up, we have their Deadshot FPS gaming mouse. They do have two different mice that they market on their website. One is meant more for MOBA usage, I believe, and then this one is their FPS tailored mouse. And I have been playing a crap load of Borderlands 3 lately, so definitely going to be using this in my long-term testing as well. It looks like it has several buttons along the outside, including one up near the front of the left click. That's kind of interesting. And one of my buddies online that saw the preview shot that I posted of this product stack noted that this kind of looks like the Razer Mamba body. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on that on my own, but initial appearances do seem to indicate that this is at the very least loosely based on that same kind of shape. So yeah, time will tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's see if I can't get this out of the box with one hand. Kyle, how do you do this? This is, God, you do a lot of things with one hand really frequently, don't you? All right, so we've got the Deadshot mostly out of the box. Oh really? Oh, why is that even in there? All right, so we have the Deadshot in hand. Feels like a pretty stable product. It doesn't have any sort of creaking, immediately noticeable creaking or anything like that. Mouse clicks feel pretty decent on first impression. Again, I am going to be using this long term, so I'll get back to you all in about a week or so as to what this experience was actually like. And then we've got a fairly bog standard braided cable. It's not a stock paracord cable or anything like that, so it doesn't have the same degree of flexibility as something like a Glorious PC Gaming Race mouse or even like my G-Wolves Skull has, but it doesn't feel terrible. Yeah, we'll see how this all plays out in the long term. All right, they also sent over some mouse bungees. They sent over two, actually. One is white LEDs with purple underglow, and the other one is red LEDs. I admittedly really would have liked to have seen these be in some kind of RGB flavor, but you know, it's a mouse bungee, so you know, how much bling does it really need to have, right? Now, one interesting thing about these mouse bungees is, as you can see right there, as I try to get this open, it is a USB hub as well, providing you with 4 additional USB ports for you to plug in peripherals or thumb drives or anything like that. So it kind of takes the reach out of some of the USB ports on the back of your computer. So yeah, this is the red LED model in hand. The only difference between this one and the white and purple LED one outwardly is the color of the Tilted Nation text right here. You can see this one has red text and the other one has purple text on it. But otherwise, you have a micro USB to USB connector in the back that is removable. The cable that comes with this is braided, and you've got 2 USB hubs on that side and 2 USB ports on that side. And the bungee itself actually has a fair bit of flex to it. So if you need this to move a little bit with your setup, then it's gonna do that. Boing. And last but certainly not least, we have this USB hub headset holder with RGB lighting. This is their Tilted Nation Shadow is what this is specifically called, and this bungee is actually called the Scorpio, by the way. Huh? See, kind of looks like a scorpion. You get it? You get it? No? Okay. Now, when Tilted Nation originally reached out to me, this specific product was the one they were initially telling me about. So it was, it looked like a pretty interesting product. I just wasn't entirely sure if I'd be able to incorporate this into my desk setup, and we'll find out in my long-term testing if I'm able to do that. But, oh, I guess that cable's detachable. And here we have the Shadow. So looking at the dimensions on the box for this thing, it looks like it measures approximately 10 inches tall by about 5 inches wide at the base, and it is a sort of square-like base in that sense. So it's gonna be 5 inches wide no matter what position you're measuring it from. It does also come with this braided cable. Again, this is braided, not a paracord style braid, but that's not really a huge deal for something like this. It does have blue tips at the end, which would indicate to me this is a USB 3 compatible cable, and it's approximately 5 feet long. So you have plenty of reach with this to get it to the back of your computer or your laptop, or you know, whatever setup you're using at your desk. So we've got our input at the back right here, and then we've got 2 USB 3.0 hubs, or ports rather, on the base of it. So that's nice to see. We have the same style mouse bungee as is on the Scorpio, and it's got that nice flexibility to it. And it looks like it has several light diffusion layers going on the base and around the outer edge right here that will illuminate with the RGB lighting. Anyway, now that I've made an absolute mess of my filming area, let me get this all cleaned up, get it set up, and I will see you all in a week. And with that, we're back. It's been about 2 weeks since I got all the Tilted Nation stuff in and set it up on my desk space. So I'm gonna do some Borderlands 3 gameplay here and sort of discuss what it's been like using all of these Tilted Nation products. And just in case those of you not familiar with this game are wondering what portion of it I'm playing, this is the Malawan Takedown, so Midnight's Cairn on the map in the game. All right, set this to true takedown mode. And here we go. So, all right, so now that I've got my gear corrected, let's try this again. So, what's it been like using Tilted Nation gear on my desk? Well, in short, it's actually been surprisingly rewarding. My desktop environment hasn't been this clean or well organized in a very long time, and I feel like in large part it's because of the organization that something like a headset stand and a mouse bungee in general provides you. Now, as far as cost to get into Tilted Nation peripherals, you're looking at $20 for the non-RGB desk mat, $20 for the Deadshot mouse, which I'll be discussing in a separate content piece in greater detail. $20 for the mouse bungee or $40 for the headset stand over here. Now, it should be noted that the headset stand does have an included mouse bungee, but depending on how your desk is laid out, that may not be the most practical use case for it. Take my desk space, for example. Having the headset stand on the left-hand side of the desk makes the most sense here. But then you can't use the mouse bungee as a mouse bungee. What I've opted to use it for instead is a headset bungee, because I'm not using a wireless headset, so I need to be able to direct the cable for my headphones right where I want them to go, just to keep it from being annoying and not getting caught up on the underside of my desk. But apart from that, I have no complaints really with the build quality on any of these peripherals, least of all the Deadshot mouse, which for $20, I honestly wasn't expecting a whole lot going into this video, but as it turns out, you're getting quite a bit of mouse here. And as I said, I'll go into more detail with it in another video, but suffice it to say, you're getting a shape that's very similar to something like the Razer Mamba, but for a fraction of the price. Looking up pricing for Razer Mambas right now, you're looking at 50 bucks on the low end to get into something like that, whereas this mouse gets you basically the same functionality for about $20. It's not a perfect product, and again, I'll touch on that in another content piece, but at 20 bucks, you can do a heck of a lot worse. And honestly, if this was all I could afford to get onto my desk, I would be very happy with this purchase after having made it. The mouse bungee itself is also nice. No real big complaints there. Again, we have the 4 USB 2 ports on the side of it, so you can relocate a lot of USB functionality from behind your computer to the front. Just bear in mind, this probably isn't a good idea to use it for high endurance workloads, like a lot of USB file transfers at the same time. Probably not going to work too well with this bungee hub, but if the goal is to clean up your desktop space and get your cables organized in a central location, this is going to work really well for you. Matter of fact, the Manic Misses has been using the other Scorpio bungee that we got in with our care package for her work at home setup, and it's done a really good job of allowing her to keep her cables organized and centrally located without getting in the way of her very busy workspace, to say the very least. Now, you may have noticed that I'm using the non-RGB desk mat as opposed to what I said was probably going to be the case originally. I just wasn't a huge fan of the RGB desk mat personally. The surface felt a bit slower than non-RGB desk mats, and I wasn't a huge fan of the RGB implementation. My specific sample had fairly uneven lighting that tended to get a little dimmer towards the extreme end of the desk mat where the control hub's set up, and there was a small section right next to the control hub that didn't seem to want to flatten out for some reason, whereas the non-RGB mats flattened out almost immediately upon taking them out of the box. The cloth surface on the non-RGB mats is also noticeably faster than the RGB mat had. The RGB mat was definitely felt like more of a control surface, whereas this one feels like a more balanced surface leaning more towards speed. The stitching on the outside of the non-RGB mat is really nice as well. While the RGB mat, the stitching that holds the diffusion layer in place is a little on the coarse side for my liking. I personally found it to be a little irritating on my forearm unless I was wearing sleeves like I am right now, but that could just be me being overly sensitive to it, so your mileage may vary there. Now, the one thing that's going to be purely subjective in any of this is how you feel about the shape and structure and colorways that are used with these peripherals, specifically when it comes to the non-RGB desk mat, because the only two non-RGB options they have right now have a very Miami Vice sort of colorway going on, and that's not going to necessarily be everyone's cup of tea. That being said though, sound off in the comments below and let Tilted Nation know what other colorways you'd like to see them explore as different options for future desk mats. Also, if I'm being a little nitpicky, then the fact that I can't control the lighting on the Scorpio hub and mouse bungee at all is ever so slightly annoying, but it's not really intrusive or in the way, so I personally don't care one way or another. Although I will say seeing an RGB version of it in the future would be really nice, just to sort of completely tie your desktop setup together. It's also admittedly been really nice to have the 2 additional USB 3 ports underneath the headset stand over here. That's allowed me to set up my Qi charger on my desktop again, which admittedly was a little bit challenging, and I had to set it on top of my computer case before because the cable for my Qi charging wasn't long enough. Now I actually find myself in a situation where the cable is too long and I have to keep it tied together. Now, while I'm in an area with a ton of mobs where my ability to rapidly prioritize targets is my primary concern, the Deadshot mouse, being only 88 grams, puts itself in a unique handling category because it's an ergonomic design mouse and it's a little bit physically on the bigger side, but because it has such a lower weight to it than what I'm used to seeing with ergonomic design mice, I find myself being able to control my movements really well with this body. There's good reason they emulated something like the Razer Mamba for this design, because being able to get this at just the $20 price point is admittedly really, really nice. All right, so with that, I guess let's jump in, start killing Wotan the Invincible, and sort of sum up my thoughts on all of the Tilted Nation gear that I've got here. I kind of feel like what you're paying for each of these peripherals here, you're getting a reasonably strong value out of it. Now, part of that is gonna play into whether or not you value having USB ports relocated or whether or not you do high endurance workloads with your USB ports on your computer. But if we're looking at this from a gamer's perspective, which really is the target audience for this, I really can't see any issue with any of these peripherals here, especially given their price point. I mean, yes, that definitely puts all of these peripherals on more of the entry-level side of things, but it doesn't feel like you're getting entry-level quality here. If anything, it feels like these peripherals are punching a bit above their weight class, which is really nice to see at this price point, because especially nowadays, with so many people having been impacted financially with everything that's been going on globally, it's nice to have affordable options at your disposal. Ah, you thought I was going down, didn't you? I have no idea what even just happened, and that was amazing. Anyway, practical upshot, I'm glad I've gotten to spend this time with the Tilted Nation gear. It's definitely worth picking up, especially if you want to spruce up your desktop environment and you don't want to necessarily spend a whole lot of money to do it. And as you can clearly see from this footage, using lower cost peripherals does not impact your ability to play high level content. I just soloed true takedown mode by myself, and these peripherals clearly didn't have any impact on it. So anyway, huge thank you to Tilted Nation for allowing me to take a look at all of these peripherals and basically have a complete idea of what it's like to use a full Tilted Nation ecosystem here. If any of you are interested in purchasing Tilted Nation products for yourselves, I do have an affiliate link down in the video's description. It does provide a kickback for me, but that money is basically something that I would be using to funnel back into the channel to continue to produce content like this for you all. And assuming it's working, use code TMG2020 at checkout to get an additional discount off of your peripherals. Anyway, toss a thumbs up on the video if you liked what you saw. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon next to it to make sure you're notified every time I put up new content, and I'll catch you all next time. So take it easy.